You.
Doing well. Good to see both of you.
Good.
All right. Early in the morning. Okay. Me this bigger and all right, we're 1 minute away and we'll get started.
Okay.
Someone already has the record button pressed.
Yes, I do.
Okay, good to go. Good to go. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning. And it's so good to be able to come and share our COVID 19 Solutions webinar from the Office of um, Human Rights and the Office of the Human Rights Commission. I'm excited this morning to be able to come and talk about solutions that COVID 19 has created, not only in our community, but around the world. And it's important for us as a department to be able to join in with our community to offer some solutions and some help that we know people are experiencing based upon this pandemic crisis. Let me welcome this morning Deanna Moya, who is a co-director, and she leads the housing department. Deanna, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you, Michael.
All right. And then as well, our other co-director is Crystal McCain. She is the director and as well leads the employment side of Human Rights Commission. Crystal, welcome.
Thank you and good morning to everyone. We have a nice crowd here.
Well, we are thankful to the two of you, certainly for your leadership in this area. Uh, none of us none of us thought that this would be the case. Certainly from last year to this year, as we look at being in the month of May now and experiencing the kind of crisis that we're under called COVID-19. And certainly the coronavirus has challenged all of us around the world, most especially in our own community. And we want to ensure that our residents are have information and as well that they're impacted with some positive solutions that can help them to navigate this present pandemic crisis. And each of you in particular brings something as an experience in housing and as well in employment that can be beneficial to our residents. And uh, we are looking forward to hearing from the both of you in regards to um, employment and housing and providing some solutions to those that will join us to help them to be able to navigate their everyday lives. We're under a lot of restrictions right now. Although our governor has loosened some of those restrictions, and that will happen over a 5 stage process as well. We have some restrictions that our city has in place that we certainly want to acknowledge and make mention of today as we're talking to those who help will join us on today. And so, with that being said, let's get right into talking about housing. We know that there are a lot of things, Deanna, that are occurring with residents in our community. Our governor has an order in place that has been established that there should be no evictions at this time as well within our own city. That same scenario is has been established also, and so we find that even during this COVID pandemic, that individuals, landlords, or whomever they may be, are not really following the orders that have been established throughout the state and as well within our local community. And people are losing their housing, being put out, or whatever the case may be, and finding themselves in a somewhat homeless situation. And so, with that being said, what would you share with us that could help those residents who may be experiencing that kind of scenario?
Right. So, and thank you for that, Michael. And you're right. There is a lot of um, there's a lot involved in this pandemic, of course, and certainly things are currently developing as we go through this process. And there's no certain rule, ordinance, et cetera, that type of thing. It's growing with us as we grow through that process as well. And I just want to go on record and say I'm not an attorney, so the information I'm sharing is strictly resources.
Mhm.
They are resources for the community. We
Right.
want to make sure that this information is being shared because there's a lot coming at us, whether it's through TV or the radio. A lot of webinars, which are great information, but at the same time can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming
Sure.
just because of the volume of information that's coming at us from all ends, government, local, et cetera. So one of the things that I did want to share, and again, this is all, COVID-19 housing related, is that some of the best information is local. So for example, if we hear something that's on a national level, you might be able to find it at the state level as well.
Sure.
So starting off right off the bat, Indiana.gov website has a wealth of information that is all COVID related, specific to housing situations. And if you look at the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority webpage, and I'm going to share that with you, so bear with me as I bring that information up, because I think it's crucial to share that.
Sure.
Are we able to see that? Michael, are you able to see what I'm sharing with you currently?
Yes, it did come up. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
great. So directly related to the IN.gov website, again, this information you can find by typing in either IHDCA
Uh-huh.
or type in Indiana Housing, and you'll bring up that information that's specifically what I'm referring to.
Sure.
But what I'm specifically looking at is this particular guide right here.
Hmm.
It is extremely important that if you haven't shared this information or if you haven't reviewed this information, that you do that. If you notice, they update these frequently. They will post a last updated date here.
Okay.
But this is particular to eviction and foreclosure prevention guide. You
Sure.
talk right now about how folks are really in a situation that the majority of us are in a situation where financially this is impacted.
Right.
This pandemic has had a major impact.
That's
And
right.
so, it's causing our jobs, it's having issues with our housing, because of course, if you don't have a job, how do you pay? How do you pay
Sure.
your mortgage or your rent?
Right.
So there have been other issues that have been that the government has put together specifically under HUD, and I'll get to that in a minute. But some of these questions are, and again, if they're on my mind, they're going to be on someone else's mind. So someone's
Mhm.
bringing these questions to the forefront. Specifically, what should I do if I'm unable to pay my rent or mortgage? The very first thing they talk about, and you'll hear that, with other resources as well, is that contact your property manager, contact your mortgage lender. These are dialogues and conversations that are extremely important at this point in time. Why? Because it helps other people understand the situation that you're in. Secondly, they may have resources available already or plans already in place for you to be able to partake of. And it also helps, this other entity know, okay, if this is affecting them, then obviously it's affecting other folks as well. So what do we do, at our level? And then also maybe backing by the city, backing by the state, that type of situation where you're receiving other resources that you might not be aware of. So again, first and foremost, you contact your property manager and you contact them, or you contact the mortgage lender, whichever your situation is in.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
And they tell you again, and we always are, make sure that we share with folks that documentation is a necessity.
Yes.
Eventually, someone's going to ask you for documentation.
Mhm.
If you have lost your job, if your job hours were reduced,
Right.
any type of situation that affects your your money situation, your money flow, etc. There's going to be documentation available to you
Right.
for
Right.
you to be able to have that and show that, or have it ready so that when you do speak with your property manager or your mortgage lender, that you have that information in there. Again, as soon as possible, as soon as you know that situation is going to affect you, you need to have that dialogue. They are uncomfortable conversations to have,
Right.
but you're not the only person in this. There are
Yeah.
many people in the situation, in the same, situation. And again, I get it. They're uncomfortable conversations, but they need to be had. They need to be had. You're not the only one. You're not the only one
Yeah.
going through this
Yeah.
crisis.
Yeah.
Again, like I mentioned before, check in with your property manager, your mortgage lender, after you've spoken to them. And if there's some recourse for you, solutions for you, and if you've handled your part of, what your obligation is, then it's okay to check in with them to see what's happening out there. And, what are they doing? What are they, where are they at in the process? It's okay to check in with them again. It's that dialogue. You are concerned about your situation currently. Where do we, at this point in time, where do we stand? What else do you need from me? It's okay to ask that. It's okay to ask, well, what else can I provide? What other documentation do you need? Again, that communication is extremely important. It's vital. It's vital.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
Deanna, the thing
yes,
about that piece as well, and I want to certainly get to Crystal here in just a moment, but
sure.
it's important for people not to feel embarrassed. Um, I didn't bring COVID to our community. You didn't, and nobody else did. It has affected people around the world. And so, to a point that you made, many people are in the same position. They've lost their job, their hours have been cut. Something has occurred because of COVID, not because we did anything, but because COVID has presented these challenges. And so it's important not to feel embarrassed, to not be able to talk to a Deanna who might be my landlord, but to make sure that I'm having that conversation and dialogue with my landlord so that we can work together and work through this. We're 8 weeks now in this. And certainly it has affected households across the country and across the world in similar ways. And so the information that you shared with us thus far is important. And certainly going to be vital to our residents as solutions as they navigate COVID-19. Crystal, want to you to share with us in regards to employment. That's your specialty, that's your expertise. We know that unemployment right now is on the rise. We just recently, some years back here, 2007, 2008, we went through an economic downturn. And obviously at that time, our unemployment rate was at an all-time high. It calls for President Obama, who took the baton in 2008, to fly out here that February to talk about the unemployment, the high unemployment rate. We were somewhere around 18, 19% at that time. COVID has brought back to us some years later that same challenge. People are being laid off. People are losing their jobs and told that you probably will not be returning, or told that you will not return. And so there's a lot of things happening when it comes to employment. There are, so many things that people are having to contend with right about now. And then the fact of what COVID brings on, fear. People are fearful. We've been told not to operate around crowds. We've been told, obviously, to social distance ourselves 6 feet. There are a number of things that we've been told. There's a number of restrictions that have been put in place. And now, I'm jobless. And I'm having to stay home every day. And there are some that are working remotely, but then there are those who have lost their job or their hours have been cut. And so they're being, they have been affected in, in a way that they have not been affected in the past. Our economy was doing well prior to March 16th, and now look at where we find ourselves. So, what would you share with those who have joined us who may need some solutions in this area? They've lost employment or their hours have been cut, or they've been told that they won't be returning to that facility or that organization.
Thank you. So I just wanted to share that the Department of Wage and Hour Division, they have announced a temporary rule because companies, of course, during this pandemic, have laid people off or people need to be off of work because
Yeah,
they have, come in contact with the virus or
sure.
they need to take off because their children are home. We
Yeah.
know schools were closed
Oh,
and our
well.
little ones are home and they can't
Yeah,
be
yeah.
home by themselves. And so daycares are closed. And we
That's
are
right.
just really in a time that we have never seen before. That this is
That's right.
something everyone is trying to navigate and different things are coming up all the time. So you have to, just try to stay on top of it and watch the news as much as possible. But one
Sure.
thing, the Department of Wage and Hour Division, like I said, announced a temporary rule that allows for some type of provision for employees. If
Uh-huh.
you have come in contact with the virus or you need to quarantine yourself, to stay at home,
Sure.
or you've been infected and you need to be off of work. The
Right.
government has provided for 2 weeks or up to 80 hours of paid sick leave. And this is a sick leave that some companies have not had,
Hmm.
prior to this. This is specifically coronavirus related.
Sure. That's right.
So the government is providing that companies can do that for their employees, provide up to 80 hours of paid sick leave. Like I said, if you have come in contact with the virus or you need to take care of someone at home, who
Hmm.
has been quarantined or come down with the virus, the government is providing leave 2 weeks or 2 weeks or up to 80 hours of paid sick leave at 2/3 the rate of pay. So that's something. Again, some companies prior to this, if you needed to be off for sick leave, you were
Right.
not going to get paid at all. And
Hmm.
so this is something where you need to talk to your human resources department about it.
Sure.
You need to be communicative to see what is available at your company and the process to go through that at specific businesses. And also, the Department of Wage and Hour Division has provided an additional 10 weeks of leave because, again, schools are closed, little
That's
ones
right.
are home, and they can't be home by themselves. So a
No.
parent needs to take off to care for their children. And so, again, this is specifically coronavirus related. That if you need to take off to be home with your children, your business or company, the government has provided that they allow you 10 weeks of paid extended family and medical leave at
Hmm.
2/3 the rate of pay. So sometimes it's not your full rate of pay, but it's something. It's
Sure.
something where you're
Hmm.
still receiving some type of finances and you don't have to worry about not receiving a paycheck at all because that is a big concern. It's a big
Hmm.
concern. Some of us are living paycheck to paycheck and we can't
Right.
afford to not be paid at all.
Hmm.
So those are some of the things that the wage and hour division has provided. And also, we get the question during this time because people don't want to catch it. We want to protect ourselves, we want to protect our loved ones. So people are like, if my job has not shut down and I still have to go to work, uh,
Hmm.
what does my company have to do to protect me? And
Sure.
certainly they have to protect their employees.
Right.
OSHA provides guidelines for, specific coronavirus guidelines and how to deal with this. They continue to put out reports of how to sterilize or clean facilities. They have classified low exposure risk for employees, medium, high, and very high. And the very high are those healthcare professionals who are
Hmm.
specifically dealing with people who have, been in touch with the virus. Okay,
Yeah.
so in
Yeah.
those type of situations, employers need to provide that personal protective equipment
Got
so
it.
that the virus won't be spread. And also, employers need to allow for their employees, if I feel comfortable, and actually, I guess St. Joseph County, the mayor has put out that, if you go into a business, you need to
That's
have a
right.
face mask,
That's
and
right.
there needs to be hand sanitizer
Uh-huh.
available. So
Yeah.
companies should be providing this as well. They need to protect their employees. The last thing we want is for a company to be infected, and have to shut down just when we are about to slowly try to reopen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But employees want to feel safe, and they should feel safe. If they have their own
That's right.
protective mask, they should be able to wear that, or in some cases where there's high risk or very high risk exposure to
Hmm.
employees, the companies need to provide that personal protective equipment.
Yeah. Very good. And um, very informative for those who may have joined us that may not have had that kind of information, that there is policies in place and or there are mandates that have been given now to employers and to others, that there are certain expectations. You made mention, and I believe today that starts, that we are to wear masks if we enter into a facility, and important as well for employers as well as their employees to know that while they are working, and there are some that are still working in facilities, that the company does have a responsibility to making sure that everyone is safe and protected as well, and that there's still social distancing going on so that we continue the process of separating ourselves from this virus, as we have the past 8 weeks or so. And so you have shared some information, Crystal, with us that is vital and important. Thank you for the update. Deanna, as we move forward, and um, again, I make mention that we're approximately 8 weeks into this, it abruptly hit us. I can remember seeing some information in the news probably in January, and then just prior to COVID really hitting us the way that it did, I saw something in the Sunday newspaper when Kobe Bryant had passed away
Hmm.
as well. And now that we are in this pandemic, and we have as well operated out of these restrictions over a course of time, there are some relief programs that have been given to those who may have mortgages, and as well other kind of loans, car loans and those kind of things, called COVID-19, or using the acronym, or using COVID as a title for a program. One of the things that I found was helpful even to my family and I was to address our mortgage situation during this time, and to participate and or to fill out applications in regards to making adjustments with our mortgage. And certainly that has worked well for us. We've been given a 90-day hiatus of not paying, and as well, there are different programs depending on the institution that shares within the program.
Hmm.
Um, and so, can you talk to our listeners in regards to those kind of opportunities that are out there um, as well?
Sure. So, Michael, I just have a quick question for you. How did you initially find out about this program that was being offered? Because again, there's a wealth of knowledge, and information that's being shared. We also have a lot of shared information again coming at us from all angles.
Hmm.
So, how did you specifically find out about your program
So I
or the
saw
program? Hmm.
Yeah, I saw a commercial from one institution that was talking about a relief program for themselves. And so
Hmm.
I quickly got on the internet, and I went to my mortgage company to see what they were doing. And once I found out that they certainly had a program in place, I called them immediately.
Okay.
In fact, I jumped off the internet and called that, and it was during the day
Hmm.
hours, and I called the number, and um, sure enough, the program was in place. It was simple, painless. They emailed me after I got off the phone the application, and
Mhm.
I turned around and submitted it that same day.
Okay.
So that's how I became aware of the programs that are out there.
So you actually didn't receive anything in the mail,
No, it
with
wasn't until
regards.
after the fact. So this was kind of the front end of COVID hitting in a
Okay.
sense. So, I just happened to see there was a commercial that hit in regards to a whole nother institution that was talking about it. I said, And so I come from the banking field.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so once I saw that, I knew that others were doing it. And
Mhm.
so, that's what caused me to go out to see what my institution was doing.
Sure. And so, you know, maybe folks don't necessarily have access to, say, for example, the internet,
Sure.
may not know exactly where to start.
Right.
Um, and again, it's vitally important that we have the discussions at the very beginning with whoever might be our landlord, or whoever might be our mortgage provider. I pulled up some information, from HUD, and this is specific to, and this is from the Office of Single Family Housing, but it's specific to, like, say, for example, FHA insured single family homes,
Hmm.
um, the mortgages specifically. There is some information on here, and I know that we are limited in time, but I encourage you that if you know of someone who has an FHA insured loan mortgage, that they, and if this is the situation that they're in, or want to be proactive, about, currently what's going on with this pandemic, because it's a lengthy process. It's going to be here,
Sure.
for a while.
Right.
And so if you want to be proactive, like Michael, like you were at this point in time, um, it would be important to access this resource. And again, it is on the webpage for HUD. This is an actual sheet that you can download, and have as a resource guide. If not for you, then maybe for someone else. Certainly they list three important areas that would be important for anyone to know considering this process. And primarily, it's continue making your mortgage payments if you're able to do so. If you're unable to, then that's when they ask that you contact, the mortgage provider.
Hmm.
And again, there's an area as well where you can contact, a HUD approved counseling, agency. And so again, I realize is that this information is at a federal level, but you certainly have it at a state level. Again, you can go to in.gov. You can contact us. We can provide you with those contact numbers and/or website information if you need it. It certainly goes through, this particular page here certainly goes through a lot of frequently asked questions. Again, if it's on my mind, I'm pretty sure it's on other folks' mind as well.
Sure.
Um, and it's important to have this information. And I also quickly want to share that HUD, has a great website as well. They have great information on here as well. And they also specifically talk about the CARES Act. Now, that in and of itself, it's a huge act. It covers
Sure.
many areas, and I don't want to go into too much of it because again, it is it's just a wealth of information. But specifically for this purpose today, we are again covering what we can cover. And again, this is for the FHA insured
Right.
single family homes, specifically what's at the state level. And then there's an excellent website by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They have a blog on here, but they also, aside from the blog, and this is a wonderful website because they offer it in many languages. But if you scroll down towards the middle, if you're looking for specific resources by topic, they again have this wonderful informational web page that, if you notice at the very top, it says Guide to Coronavirus Mortgage Relief Options. If you click on that, it takes you to a whole different series of options, and opportunities that you might have. I know you talked about, what's available out there. This is what would be available. And I don't want to speak to one particular area because, there's guidance for the folks who, say, for example, are in public housing in Section 8.
Yeah.
If their employment is affected, then their situation in public housing and Section 8 may be affected as well. It's important to reach out to the housing authority that you currently have your either housing choice voucher, which is Section 8, or where you currently reside, in public housing. It's important that you reach out to the housing authorities right away to have that dialogue. And again, and Michael mentioned at the beginning, there is no shame to this process, because believe me, we are all in this trying to either help, resolve, bring awareness, but have that conversation. Again,
Yeah.
just going right back to this guide here, this consumerfinance.gov webpage is very informative. It's very helpful. They frequently go back in and update their information. And I'm just scrolling through this. I mean, you see already where they talk about the CARES Act relief options for, federally backed mortgages, the mortgage forbearance, the moratoriums, what they actually mean. And we're going to have a speaker later this month speaking about the moratorium and what that means with regards to rent, evictions, et cetera, that type of thing.
All right.
But yeah, I just wanted to go through that and just share that. And I'm glad that you were able to take up on that opportunity as well, Michael, because it's important for people to see that it affects all of us. We're all affected by this, in one way or another, we are affected. So, and I'm glad you took that opportunity, and I'm glad that you shared with our folks as well.
Well, I think it's important for people to know that the programs that are out there, they're working. And so sometimes the things we see on TV, things we hear about, we think that they're gimmicks sometimes, and, or we just don't know. We've never done it before. And so, is that real? So to be able to have an experiential scenario shared with us is important. And so as we bring this to a close, Crystal, if you would give your last comments, and then Deanna, we're going to do the same with you. We'll close today's webinar out.
Yeah, we just want to thank everyone for attending. We have a nice crowd here. We didn't know how many people we would get, but we appreciate it. And please spread the word. And as we move forward, we have updated some of our people, our topics that we're going to have for this webinar, specifically coronavirus webinar series lasting at least through June, but we'll see beyond that. But we have some great guests lined up. I'm going to have someone from EEOC speak about specifically employee and the coronavirus, and I know Deanna's got some great people lined up as well. But we have a lot of resources here. We may not be able to answer all of the questions, but we definitely have some resources where we can kind of guide you and point you in a certain direction. So again, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Deanna.
Yes, I just would like to just share as well. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your time. We appreciate the opportunity. We are the Human Rights Commission of the City of South Bend, but we also serve St. Joe County. We are not just resource-based. We also handle charges of discrimination. A shameless plug, I'm going to say it. We do file charges of discrimination. Certainly, that's not what we want to be on here for today. But should you need us, please feel free to reach out to us. We have, again, great resources, but we also have a function that we serve in the community, one which we are, very proud of. And so I wanted to share that as well. And just, it's a great opportunity. And I, thank you. And thank you, Michael, for being, our first guest,
Right.
for coming in and helping us, with this process. We really appreciate your shared knowledge and information today.
Well, thank you. Would you share with us how we can reach you by phone and or email for the two of you, actually? How can they reach your office and make contact with you?
Absolutely. So my direct dial is 574-235-9163. I am in the office Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. Again, my phone number, direct dial, 574-235-9163. If you need any of the information shared today, just give me a call. I'd be more than happy to send that information over to you. Again, we're open Monday to Friday. Right now, we're kind of close to the public. That'll be changing. But I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Crystal, so she can share her contact information.
And your electronic information, email?
Oh, my apologies. Yes, it's D as in Diana. So DMOYA at southbendin.gov. Again, that's DMOYA at southbendin.gov.
Thank you
Crystal?
so much.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
my direct dial is 235-9320. That is again 235-9320. And the general number to the office is 235-9355. And my email address is cmccain@southbendin.gov.
All right, thank you so much. So next week, we are back again on Tuesday at 10 a.m. What's the topic, and do you have a guest?
So yes, next Tuesday, our topic will be covering housing, specifically to the, this moratorium that not only affects mortgage providers, but then also the rent component, the rental components as well. And
Okay.
our esteemed guest will be Judy Fox from the University of Notre Dame. I'm
All
sure many
right.
of you
I
are
love Judy.
aware of Judy. I
Yeah.
expect a full conversation with her. So bring your questions, please. And I look forward to seeing everybody. Hopefully, we'll have more folks join. But yes, that'll be next Tuesday at 10 o'clock. And again, Judy Fox will be our first speaker for that day.
All right. Looking forward to that
Great.
webinar and you leading the webinar as well. And again, giving some impactful information and as well being able to inform our community and residents of solutions while they're navigating COVID-19. Thank you both for sharing such impactful information. I'm hopeful that those who have joined us were empowered and informed through the information that you shared on today. We look forward to the information that you'll share over the rest of this month and the impact that it will make in South Bend and St. Joseph County. All right. Thank you all for your time. Thank you to our guests that joined us on today. Please join us again on next week, next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Deanna has shared with you the theme that we will be talking from and the guests that will be joining us. We hope that you'll join us again also. Goodbye. Have a great day. Thank you all.